We as parents have a very real pain. We watch our teenagers and young adults burn through their years on things that don't matter, while the opportunities nature gave them go untouched. I'm a father of 2 daughters myself, and this topic keeps me up at night. My name is Stanislav Natapov. I'm the founder of a program where self-made business owners and top executives of major companies across the US, the CIS countries, the Middle East, Europe, Asia, and other regions pass on their experience to the next generation through personal mentorship. So, what's the core problem we work on and what I'm gonna talk about today? We call it the lost years. Today, I want to give you real, practical steps that you can take to keep your young adults from falling into the traps that will hold back their growth, their happiness, the potential given to them by nature and parents. Let me share one example from our experience. Max, 21 years old. He came to our program in his 3rd year of an IT university. A bit lost, honestly. Flat eyes, no confidence. After the initial assessment, it was pretty obvious to us that IT just wasn't his world. 3 years earlier, Max had suffered a serious injury that effectively ended his professional basketball career. He had chosen IT because it felt like, a safe, trending field. He couldn't even conceive that sports could become his real path, not just a hobby. The mentor encouraged Max to pause and look at the sports from a completely different angle, to think about what kind of business model could be built around it, beyond playing professionally. After a series of conversations with mentors from the business world, Max has a genuine rethink. He decided to focus on sports management, the professional side of running teams and clubs. It became clear that this was the field that actually was best for him. The lost IT guy had become an energetic and driven young man. Max launched his own startup, brought in advertisers and sponsors very quickly, and even found an investor. One important note. Every case I share comes from completely normal, loving families. But, unfortunately, life shows us again and again that no family is safe from the scenarios we're going to talk about today. From years of working in the space, we see 2 ways things actually play out for young adults today. The first, the negative scenario, is the one we encounter most often. Take a look at what it looks like. Addictions, psychosomatic disorders, passivity. The person either does nothing or again and again keeps starting things and never brings them to result. Regular tantrums at home, breakdowns. The parent stays the main engine of everything in the family, sorting out problems, paying the bills. Financial independence never really happens. But there is a second scenario, where the young adult grows in a balanced way, grounded in his own inner core. Personal maturity grows, independence grows. They are building something they genuinely love and that energizes them. They have goals. As strategy starts to take shape, they take on more and more responsibility for their future. And the whole purpose of this isn't success in some abstract sense. We're talking about happiness, about growing into a whole person. Rather often, this leads young adults to find their path in real synergy with what their family already has. Not necessarily taking over the business directly, but building their own projects with the support of the family, which helps them to reach a scale they could never have alone. Now, let me walk you through a different case. Harry, 27 years old young man. His father runs a substantial business and Harry is his only son. At the start of our work together, the father had a natural, understandable wish for Harry, who had been working in the family company for years, to finally grow from engineer to CTO and eventually to managing director. But there was a problem. Harry's own request at the start of our work together was the following: please help me find something that will take me as far away as possible from the family business, and especially from my father. So, as you can see, the father and Harry had completely different positions and different vision. Just 6 weeks after Harry joined the program, he came to his father on his own with the following: Dad, listen, I've been rethinking a lot. Here is what I want to propose. You have never quite had time to launch that new production unit at the factory. Let me lead that project. We will run it with you as a joint venture, 50-50. I take the management, you provide the resources. If it works, I'll build the competencies I need and have the unit running at full capacity within a couple of years. From there, I'll learn to become CTO and eventually take over managing the whole business. Now let me tell you one very important thing. When things are left on their own, finding yourself typically takes about 30 years. From around 15, when you start searching, picking a university, all the way to 40 or 45, when a person can finally say, now I'm doing something what I really love. This is how the trajectory plays out for a lot of young adults. You try something here, something there, it doesn't fit, it falls apart, results are weak, you get depressed, your confidence takes a hit. Today, we're going to talk about how to actually redirect your young adult's life trajectory from negative to positive one. I want to show you the 4 main reasons why young people's potential goes unrealized for many, many years. Reason number 1. Young adults spend years, often decades, searching for themselves in fields that simply don't match who they are. Every person is genuinely unique. If we all went through the same set of assessments, every single one of us would come out with a completely different combination of parameters. And that's completely fine. We have different motivators. Some people are driven by money, others by recognition, others by having influence. Which of these is better? What really matters is finding the right fit for a specific person. In my company, we account for several dozen parameters that together make up a unique combination. And even when at least one of those key parameters is not being met by what someone is doing, the person will definitely feel uncomfortable. But once the right combination is found, everything starts to make sense and the ambitions grow. We have watched this happen too many times to count. The right path can be found much faster, but it takes a real, comprehensive approach. Assessments, testing, real conversation, and most importantly, broad exposure and first-hand experience. Exposure and first-hand experience means giving a young adult the chance to actually see and experience a wide range of fields in a short window of time that could potentially be a real fit for who they are. Then, by bringing together all the data, we can actually identify the best fit direction and do it less than within a year. To be clear, we're not talking about a single personality test or one-off career counseling session. It starts with a comprehensive assessment and strategy, which takes roughly a month. After that, every 2 weeks, there is a deep dive into a new field, building exposure and real-world experience. Since we have a substantial pool of business owners and mentors, once we understand which fields suit a particular young adult, we give him a chance to get inside those fields. Not after 5 years of university, but right now, to feel what it's actually like from the inside, so they can understand early what kind of life is ahead and whether they want it or not. Let me tell you about another young man, Daniel, 20 years old. Initiative, how to tell you to get the picture, was essentially zero. Things in Daniel's life only started moving when his dad was practically doing the pushing for him. Even though Daniel was already 20 years old, and although he was in his 3rd year at a top university abroad, he had no career strategy, no real sense at all of where he was heading. And now look at the picture just 1 year into the program. The person in front of us seems like a completely different young man. He is now the one reaching out to companies to set up internships and getting them. He is now earning his own money for the first time, and he has a clear strategic sense of where he's going. Only when you bring together all the test results, the diagnostic data, the psychological profile, and what the person tells you, for example, this excites me, this feels right, this absolutely isn't for me, along with their personality type, emotional intelligence level, barriers, motivators, and values, only then does a young adult truly get to know themselves for the first time. And of course, it gives you a real chance finally to get to know your child. Beyond the many years spent finding one's path and learning to know oneself, there's a second reason that runs in parallel and massively compounds the first. Reason number 2. A weak environment shapes narrow and often limiting models of thinking. All of us, and young people especially, are shaped by our surroundings. This influence happens constantly when we talk with people, when we spend time with them, watch how they handle things, acquaintances, colleagues, friends, people we train together, and plenty of others. The people we spend time with shape our thoughts, ideas, and even our view of what's possible and what we are capable of. And there's an enormous difference between how the environment affects us as adults and how it affects young people. Our patterns and beliefs are already set, but our teenagers and young adults at 13, 15, 20 absorb everything around them like sponges. They are literally programming their own neural networks at precisely this age. And the people surrounding a young adult during these years are the ones who shape the scale of their thinking, their level of ambition, their relationship with work, their relationship with themselves, and their entire worldview for the rest of their life. So, and who actually shapes the way your young people think? The psychologist Albert Bandura proved back in the last century, and a great deal of modern psychology is built on this today, that thinking is shaped by other significant adults, not parents, but those people whom the young person himself sees as an authority. And now, think about who they are actually spending most of their time with. In practice, these are elder peers, coaches, tutors, senior colleagues. Ask yourself, what worldview and scale of thinking are these people embedding in them? And here is what matters. The thinking model you actually want someone to develop can only be passed on by someone who genuinely lives that model themselves. Not in theory, but in practice. Let me show you a few real examples. Kirill Sejinov, co-owner of a major company for footwear retail, with over 300 stores, the top seller on several marketplaces. Annual turnover runs into more than $700 million. Kirill runs largest footwear showroom in CIS countries. And these pictures were taken right there. Here you can see the program participants who are attending a masterclass at his company. Kirill is one of our regular mentors. He teaches young adults financial literacy and investments, shares personal and business experience. This is one of many sessions that leave a deep impression on participants. After meetings like this, many of them begin to show a real, authentic interest in exploring entrepreneurship as a real way to build their own path. Let's talk about the 4 key mental models. Here is an example. A young adult decides that he wants to dedicate his life to fighting cancer. In the employee mindset, that might mean becoming a doctor, a scientist, or a pharma company manager. But if we expand that same person's perspective, show them the startup founder model, for example. In this case, addressing that same problem, he could, for example, find a scientist co-founder, split the roles, bring in investors, move fast to test the hypothesis, and eventually sell the company to a larger player. That's still a real contribution to treating cancer, but a completely different scale. In the investor's mindset, he would think differently again, learning to evaluate companies, build a pipeline of promising projects, raise capital, and earn alongside partners by managing that capital. And we can see clearly that the startup, entrepreneur, and investor models of thinking don't just offer far more personal freedom. They also provide far more resources to actually pursue something as meaningful as curing cancer, because they allow one person to influence far more lives. There is one more important thing worth saying here. Schools and 99% of universities are built to develop exactly one model of thinking, the employee model. The system prepares people for a career working for someone else. So who is going to show your young adults the other ways of building a life? Only someone who genuinely lives them. Personal meetings with business owners, founders, and investors reshape how young adults think in a real and lasting way. I remember one participant, 16 years old guy, who after a mentorship session where he got an inside look at the marketplace business model said, "Before this, I thought selling on marketplaces was easy. Just buy and sell. Now it turns out that there is a whole layer of analytics and math underneath it." That's what our program does. It genuinely reprograms thinking and brings it to a different level. This is exactly why we run these individual sessions with different mentors on a regular basis, every 2 weeks. It is the fastest way to swap out limiting beliefs for ones that actually drive growth. Another huge advantage of these meetings with business owners and investors is the exposure. Getting first-hand experience across different industries in real time, not in a classroom. Just think about it. In a single year, a young adult can get inside dozens of fields in a meaningful way. And this is how strategic thinking develops. Barriers start to break down, communication skills grow, and a genuinely high-caliber network starts forming. The third reason that holds young adults back from realizing their potential and living full, genuinely happy lives is this. Soft skills are severely underdeveloped. Working with young adults from more than 20 countries, we see the same thing everywhere. Almost universally, education puts the emphasis on hard skills, while soft skills get pushed to the side. The term soft skills still throws people off, honestly. Soft sounds like something optional, something extra and unimportant. But in reality, it's soft skills, not hard skills, that form the bridge between latent potential and the actual results someone achieves in life, unused. So what is potential exactly? The potential is abilities, hidden capacities, intelligence, talents, ideas, things a person has inside them. But potential on its own doesn't produce results. There has to be a bridge built between potential and outcomes, and that bridge is made of soft skills. You can't become an entrepreneur, a startup founder, or an investor without developing positive thinking and comfort with uncertainty. We see it very clearly in our program. The moment we bring those skills up to even an average level, young adults immediately start showing greater ambition and a healthier appetite for challenge. Moreover, they start to show real desire to take on more complex and interesting goals. Let me share another case. Mike, 16 years old, 10th grade. When he joined our program, he was a very confrontational young man. Everything was centered around the screen. Almost no real-world interaction with anyone. All friends were online. Now the picture is totally different. Just 1 year later, in front of us there is an entirely different person. Emotionally steady, thoughtful, someone who can hold a real conversation, genuinely listen to another person and articulate his own view constructively. At the same time, he actually respects the other person's perspective too. Mike now really enjoys sport and even has developed an interest in business. Beyond that, he is actively exploring potential joint projects with his father, including the possibility of becoming a junior partner in a family investment fund they are looking at building together. These extraordinary changes happened in just 1 year. Very often, young adults don't pursue something not because they have genuinely concluded that it's wrong for them, but because there are internal blocks rooted in underdeveloped soft skills. And once those skills start to develop, risks stop feeling like threats, and the whole new range of possibilities opens up, which are now actually ready to be explored. Beyond soft skills, there is one more crucial meta skill that shapes literally everything: career, learning, personal growth, relationships. And that meta skill is emotional intelligence. It's what determines how you build trust, how you handle stress, how you make decisions, how well you understand yourself and others, how you manage your emotions, and how you pick up on what others are feeling. And here is the reality. In over 90% of the young people who come to us, and more than 150 have been through our method now, emotional intelligence is well below average. Take a look at the slide. On the left are the components of emotional intelligence: understanding your own emotions, managing your emotional state, understanding other people's emotions, and others. On the right, we have the actual scores. Blue shows where participants start when they enter the program. On average, in just 1 year, we bring them to a fundamentally different level. Let me show you how this works for a real case. A 24-year-old guy comes to us after completing rehab. It's a difficult situation. He developed an alcohol dependency following a move to another country. Deeply lost, working as a waiter. His parents had poured enormous resources into his development, and still nothing was moving forward. Within the first few months of working together, we helped him build a portfolio, identify real career direction, and along the way, he fully let go of the alcohol dependency. The turning point here was development of 2 specific soft skills: responsibility and positive thinking. His whole mindset shifted from "that will handle it, that will sort it out" to a new, accountable way of thinking. I can take on a task and deliver the results myself. On average, through our program, we consistently achieve over 40% growth in emotional intelligence and other soft skills in just 6 months. That's an exceptional rate of development. I really don't know of any other approach that comes anywhere close. In everyday life, if someone is actively and deliberately working on their emotional intelligence, it grows at roughly 3 to 4% a year. And in crisis situation, a divorce, an abrupt move, these skills can actually go down. This is why the speed of development of soft skills that we achieve in the program from case to case matters so much, because it is really fantastic. And now let's talk about the 4th reason. And this one is probably the most insidious, because most people simply don't recognize it in themselves. It runs deeper than any skill or piece of knowledge. Reason number 4. Psychological barriers that quietly block self-realization. Barriers are internal limitations that hold a person back at the exact moments that matter most, when they need to make the first step, make a call, step up and take responsibility. Everyone has barriers, and that's normal. But what's not normal is when they stick around and grow stronger with every passing year. Let me briefly walk you through the most common ones. The self-initiative barrier. The person struggles to start things on their own without someone pushing them or signing off first. The idea is there, but it stays an idea and never becomes action. Or the communication barrier. The person has trouble making friends in new places or to say what they think in a conversation. There is the independence barrier. On the surface, the young adult may seem fairly self-sufficient, but the moment they are left alone with a task, with no external support, anxiety sets in. Such people constantly need to hear that they are doing things right, and that reassurance has to come from outside, not from within. The risk barrier. Any uncertainty is considered to be a threat. The person immediately starts running worst-case scenarios and ends up doing nothing. Not because they don't want to, but because the fear of getting it wrong is paralyzing. The barrier to embracing new things, new formats, non-standard challenges, unfamiliar environments, all of it creates stress, especially when there is no structure or sense of what's coming next. And the achievement barrier. The person struggles to set ambitious goals and actually pursue them because they simply don't believe in their own ability to get there. Look at the scale. In an ideal state, barriers sit at 0. The most severe scenario is a barrier at -10. At -6, barriers have taken deep root in the person's identity and start pulling other barriers along with them, like a tree spreading roots. As a rule, almost everyone who comes to us has at least one barrier at this level when we start. The blue on the slide shows the median level of psychological barriers participants have in the beginning of the program. The yellow shows how significantly we are able to bring those numbers down within just a single year. The changes are transformational. We see it case after case, every time. Over just a couple of years of program, barriers typically come down to a level where they no longer stand in the way of growth and self-realization. Here is a recent example. This is a report for the parents of one participant who had completed just 6 months of the program. 6 months. His risk barrier decreased from -6 to -2. 3 times decrease. It had been a significant block for him. Overall, all barriers combined came down by 22% in half a year. That's a meaningful result. Today we have seen that the trajectory of your young adults can, and most importantly, must develop towards a path where real self-realization is possible. And where there is self-realization, there is happiness. But redirecting that trajectory requires holistic work on a person's identity, and that's only possible with a comprehensive approach. And that comprehensive approach is exactly what we have built into our program. What does it include? A year-long individual development program for participants aged 13 to 30 and older. Over the course of a year, we seriously changed the young adults environment. We facilitate 25 personal mentorship sessions with entrepreneurs and senior leaders of major companies. We organize more than 12 group sessions with peers and more than 50 one-on-one meetings with my team. Masterclasses, debates, in-person events, at least 2 internships, substantial soft skill development work, and the execution of real projects under the guidance of experienced entrepreneurs from my personal network. A word about our mentors. Every mentor in our program is personally invited by me. Senior leaders of major companies from the US, the CIS, Europe, Middle East, Asia, and globally. A young adult absorbs not just knowledge, but a model of thinking and a relationship with life, so it matters deeply to us who is standing alongside them. We prepare each mentor specifically for working with young adults, and we train participants not just to ask good questions and communicate. We teach them to build and maintain relationships with high achievers over the long term, the people who we have connected them with. Our mentors are always people of strong values, and we stand behind that. We watch how they keep their word, how they show up in difficult situations, how they treat the people around them. Since 2021, hundreds of young adults have gone through our method. Participants launch startups during the program or immediately after, start investing, find their path, one that genuinely energizes them and sparks real ambition. The first shifts in soft skills become visible within just 3 months, and real transformational changes within 6. And one last thing I always say honestly to parents: the later you start, the harder it gets. Because as people get older, beliefs become more fixed, barriers dig in deeper, and change takes more and more time. The best time to start is before 18. That's what our experience shows consistently. Thank you very much for watching, helping our kids reach their full potential.